Thor is a badass. Hellraiser takes over the base, and Teal'c's family gets in the way once again. This week on the Chevron Locked podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 10 of Chevron Locked. My name is BC. I am joined, as always, by the one and only Kevin. Kevin, how are you doing, sir?
Doing pretty good. Can't complain.
No? Having a good week so far?
Yeah, absolutely. I had a Sunday off. I got to sleep in. It was pretty neat.
Oh, I haven't had a Sunday off, and I couldn't tell you when, dude. That must be nice.
Yeah, I get one every 4 weeks, but I don't usually actually take it.
No?
No, I usually go in and work at least a couple of hours just to, keep myself above water. I just had to take a mental health day.
Dude, those the mental health days are far more worth it for me.
Yeah.
Especially just, what we do, dealing with people. Every now and then you just need to step away,
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It just gets to you.
Yeah. The only thing I wanted to kind of bring up pre-show here is the fact that we lost Bill Paxton yesterday.
Yep.
Huge loss. And from what I've read, it seemed incredibly sudden that he died from complications from surgery.
It was a heart surgery. Yeah, exactly. That's too bad.
It really is, man. And for both of us, I mean, you're an 80s kid as much as I am. That's just, he was in everything. And Twister was the first thing I ever recall him starring in, but He was just always peppered into roles, some great ones. And I believe, and if I'm wrong here, I hope somebody corrects me, but I believe he holds the distinction for being the only person to ever be killed by a Terminator, a Predator, and an Alien.
I think Lance Henriksen also holds that. I'm not sure.
Being killed by Terminator?
Yeah.
Oh, well, shit. He'd be in good company then.
Yeah, because I was going to bring that up too. I just looked it up because I thought he was, but there's something on here about on the internet about Paxton and Henriksen. So I don't know. I'll have to look into that a little more. I don't remember.
That would still be a very good company to be in. Those two. So, of course, my favorite Paxton role. It's a bit of a toss-up because I really liked him in Aliens. I really did as kind of the comedic relief. But Weird Science, him playing the douchebag older brother in Weird Science.
Oh, what an awesome movie.
Seriously, dude. Chet, and when he turned into that pizza blob, oh, God.
I have to rewatch that. It's been way too long since I've seen that.
Well, I mean, honestly, Bill Paxton is fantastic in it. And then Robert Downey Jr. is fantastic in it. Absolutely loved Robert Downey Jr. in that movie.
Yeah, it wasn't until Age of Ultron that I remembered that Robert Downey Jr. was in that movie.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. When I saw him when they de-aged him for was it Age? No, it was Civil War.
It was Civil War. Yeah.
When they de-aged him for that, I was like, "Holy crap! I know him."
Yeah. And he was that quintessential 80s douchebag.
Yep. It's the only way to describe it, too.
Yeah, I was trying to think of some other phrase to describe that, but man, just 80s douchebag. So, him as the big brother Chet, fantastic role, and Kelly LeBrock was in that movie, so that in and of itself, is memorable. But huge loss. Just he was in so much that so many movies that I've enjoyed throughout the years. So, completely sad. But let's get into Stargate, shall we?
Yes.
Okay. So today, it's weird because we're recording this during the day, and normally we record these things at night. So I'm a little off right now, but that's all right. So today, we're going to look at episodes 28, 29, and 30 of Season 2. That would be Thor's Chariot, Message in a Bottle, and Family. with we'll get into the details. 3 really good episodes, but man, I fucking loved Thor's Chariot.
I know. I've been waiting for that one.
I have too. They're just kind of when we were planning out how we wanted to do this show, like going, maybe 2 episodes or 3 episodes. When we were kind of planning it out, you and I talked about how it would work out, doing 3 episodes. So, of course, I think both of us, I know I did, you kind of scan through the seasons because you want to kind of catch a season 1 finale to begin with a season 2 finale. You want that on one show. And, of course, I see Thor's Chariot. I see next week's episode, and season 2 already had me pretty pumped.
Mm-hmm.
So, would you like to talk about Thor's Chariot, good sir?
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit of a rundown what it entails.
Okay.
So the good people of the planet Chimera that we've already visited and destroyed Thor's hammer on send the box that we left for Thor through instead of coming through themselves, which is good because it would have killed them. Turns out the Goa'uld have attacked because we screwed up their defenses. They go to try to help, and Daniel uncovers the secret weapons cache of Thor. Turns out it's knowledge, which is not at all helpful. And then Thor himself shows up and wrecks house. I mean,
yes,
this was our first introduction to Thor, and I gotta tell you, I love the little gray guy. He is my favorite character in this entire series.
Yep, I can't disagree with you too much about that, to be honest. And I loved the visual representation that they used for Thor.
Yep.
The whole, grayskin, big eye, very, and Carter even mentions it in the episode. Very Area 51, 1950s.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and Thor, they even say that like we've been visited. Like this is sort of a cultural phenomenon that this is the description of aliens that we've always had, and I just love that they ran with it.
Yep, I agree. I absolutely agree. First and foremost, what a great name for a planet, by the way.
Chimera? Oh yeah.
It's just a great word. Some words just kind of hit you differently. Chimera, great name for that planet. 2, we got the iris. Now granted, it wasn't a Goa'uld hitting the iris.
And
but
it didn't sound as wet as it usually does. So I think we get that,
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, dude. It didn't sound quite like Jello with rocks in it, like hitting the iris.
Yep. Well, that's the first thing in my notes. It's we get the thump on the iris straight away with an exclamation point.
Yes. So that always signals a good episode for me when you start off with that. And I liked the fact that in this episode, SG-1 kind of had to explain themselves like they're here because of us. Like something that it's not necessarily a running theme, but it's something that comes up every now and then that something happens to a planet because SG-1 was there,
Yeah, we try to do good and we screw it up because we don't know any better.
Correct. Because quote unquote we're still young, that in and of itself is a theme that's kind of arced throughout the show so far, at least. So I like the idea that they had to explain to Thor that it's their fault that they, that the Goa'uld were there. And I liked the fact that they had to. Again, this is something we've seen before, but they had to explain that Teal'c isn't necessarily Jaffa anymore.
Yeah, he's turned his back on them.
He's turned his back on them, and that he's one of them now. So, just a fantastic episode from start to finish. Just like in the I almost said Hall of Justice. Jesus, in when they go through Thor's hammer and they go through the Hall of Maze, I guess the mazes. It's everything's there for a reason. It seemed like, and when they get to the Thor's weapons crate, if you will, I liked how it was a matter of like 2 different types of riddles, or one riddle and then one test of what heroism.
Self-sacrifice.
Self-sacrifice, yeah.
Yeah.
That one was willing to sacrifice themselves for the other, so.
I mean, this definitely reminded me of like a 1990s LucasArts video game. Like, I felt like I should be pointing and clicking on the screen.
No, I agree. Like, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Like, what was the name of that big one? crap, I used to play the heck out of that, and I can't remember. But yeah, it was a very kind of a point-and-click type of experience. But great episode. Honestly, I was trying to find something bad. I like to try to balance these out, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But there really wasn't anything all that bad. The visuals worked, like, very, very well again. From the inside of the weapons crate, you know? I thought that looked great. To when we get outside and we see the motherships landing.
Oh, I thought that was spectacular. When we see them building the pyramids for the landing, that was amazing. It was good visuals. I think they put a lot of effort into this episode. I think last time we were on this planet, though, there were no trees near the Stargate, and suddenly we're in the middle of a forest. So I do wonder how long we've been gone. You know, that was one thing I had.
Yeah. No. Way to catch that. I didn't even think about that. But now that you mentioned it, you're absolutely right. What else? Oh, and of course, our first look at the Asgard ship.
Oh, what a cool looking ship! Oh. I mean, it was like actual Thor's hammer from Celtic, religious artifact. Oh, yeah, sweet design.
No, it was beautiful, and it was very independent, very Roland Emmerich like, and very Independence Day like that. How it comes down through the clouds.
Yeah, it definitely had like a gravity to that scene. It was moving.
No, it really was. Great visuals with his technology when Thor's, taking everything off the planet. All the bad guys and all the motherships, are just kind of beamed off of there.
Yep.
And again, there's no reason that we would get explanations about how that works right now.
Nope, don't care.
Don't care. Don't give a shit. It fucking worked for me,
Yep, and I know it's not official, but I'm counting this as a Daniel Death episode because he fell down that pit. He didn't know he was going to
live. Yeah. Well, see, I like how you went outside the box there.
So to my point a couple weeks ago, the Goa'uld armor does nothing. It did not stop these axes from these guys. It does not stop bullets. All it does is restrict their motion and their view.
Correct.
That's it.
So when I was and you just reminded me of something, when I was just mentioning how I couldn't find anything wrong with the episode, the one thing and again, I understand why they didn't do it, but putting myself in that position. So when O'Neill and Teal'c are out with Olaf, I think was his name.
Yes.
Okay, so they're out to scout, and O'Neill and Teal'c notice the Goa'uld search party or party out around, and it was the System Lord Heru'ur? Heru'ur, yeah. Why didn't they just take that shot and put one in his dome? Because as soon as, and clearly we saw, as soon as he realized they were there, he he turned his watch on and the shield came up, and I'm like, just take the fucking shot, before he has a chance.
Or conversely, just stand there, pin him down. That shield can't last forever.
No. And I did, there was a great, so when they grab Olaf and they're heading back to the caves, the guards are all down, but the Goa'uld is still there, right?
Yep.
And Teal'c turns around and kind of fires his staff weapon to kind of give him a second. And then you just saw this look on his face as he turned tail and just ran, that he was like legitimately scared.
Yeah.
Which is typically not a look that we get from Teal'c.
No, because he's such a badass. But yeah, he is afraid.
Yeah. He turns tail and runs, and it's just kind of a cool little scene. Even though it was very brief to see that look on his face, it just goes to show that he at least respects their power. He doesn't respect them as gods, but he understands what could happen, that type of thing.
Yeah, they may not be gods, but they definitely know what they're doing. Like they are there to, sort of kill everybody and make sure that they lead by fear.
No, absolutely. I agree with you. And I think Teal'c, out of all of them, recognized that the most.
Yeah.
Like he's been there and he's seen it done, hundreds of times before. So, all in all, though, man, I just can't wait to get more Thor now. I can't wait to get more Asgardian ships, Asgardian technology, like all of that stuff.
Oh, it's such a rich well of stories to draw from. I'm so excited.
Yep. Yeah. Did you have any final thoughts about that one? I mean, God, it was just a good episode. Like, it was so good.
mean, I can nitpick it, but that's about it. There's nothing major about this episode that really stands out. I actually saw in the IMDb bloopers or whatever it is, mistakes page, they mentioned, and I did catch it, that when they get teleported out of the Hall of Might or wherever it was, Daniel's hat is not on his head, but when he gets teleported out, it suddenly is.
That's a hell of a teleporter right there, buddy.
Right? I know. Hey, whatever.
I mean, that is power.
You know what? We can even explain that in universe by saying that it took a snapshot of him when it teleported them in. Boom. I'm happy.
Done. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. And you know what? Yeah. I mean, I was enjoying that episode so much that I didn't even catch that.
No, and that's exactly it. It's a minor mistake on a great episode.
Yep. And so that was definitely, was that the one episode this week that really propelled the story forward?
Family, I think it was. Yeah,
family a little bit, but that one really pushed the overall storyline forward in terms of giving us new stuff. So, and I believe that was our first introduction, like real introduction to a new system lord.
This was, yeah. Well, we had who else did we have? We've had Naerti before,
and that was the Naquitobam
and Hathor. So 2 women, and then I feel like there was one other man that we did get introduced to.
I think you're right. I don't think it was him though.
No, it wasn't Harrower. This is the first time we've seen Harrower, although that actor was in Serpent Slayer as one of the guards.
Okay, because he looked really familiar.
Yeah, no, this was our first time seeing him, but this is Douglas Arthurs is the actor's name. He played a couple of different things.
Okay. Yeah, no, I can't say enough good things about that episode. In fact, well, it would be hard to say, if somebody came to me and said, I want to get into Stargate, what episodes should I watch? Like if you weren't going to watch them in order, I would say that would be, top 5 episodes to watch.
This is definitely one of the pivotal episodes. This is one that you can't skip, and then it gets built on.
Correct. It doesn't get built on right away, but if you do happen to miss that later on in the series, a lot of this stuff is built upon that. So let's just continue on and look at what Message in a Bottle.
Message in a Bottle.
Yeah, another fantastic episode, I thought.
Yeah.
But why don't you talk to us about Message in a Bottle?
Sure. I mean, it's a very small episode, sort of. One of those self-contained episodes. The gang discovers the device from Hellraiser and decide to bring it home for some reason.
Good.
They get
good
it
analogy.
There,
sorry.
They examine it. No. And it freaks out and doesn't want to be sent home. So it attacks Jack and infects everyone and everything, including the walls, the clothes, and the computers, until we pinky swear to send it somewhere nice.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, it wasn't a terrible episode. It was kind of interesting to think that this entire civilization has sort of boiled themselves down to this one little device as a time capsule.
Yep. And I just want to bookend your description with, and Teal'c tells a joke.
Oh, yes. Is that the undomesticated equines?
Yes, it is the undomesticated equines.
Oh, my God. That is such a... Like, my wife and I quote that to each other at least once a week.
Oh, it's such a... Yeah. It was... That may have been my favorite part of this whole episode. That little conversation between Jack and Teal'c and Jack's trying to convince Teal'c to leave, and Teal'c says, undomesticated... Equines couldn't carry me away, and he's like, "Well, horses." And he's like, "Oh shit, you made a joke." Oh, it was such just a great part of that episode. But
absolutely.
So you liked the episode then, right?
I did.
All said and done.
I like the idea behind it. I like the way that it was executed. It's a standalone episode. I don't think it pushes the story forward any. It doesn't really cause anybody to evolve and grow. But having said that, I like it. I'd watch it again.
No, I agree with you 100%. It didn't push the story forward. We may get a callback to the technology at some point down the road, but I don't like. It didn't introduce us to anything new necessarily. I mean, it did introduce a new threat, I guess, or a new species, but it didn't necessarily bring us forward in the story. But in terms of self-contained episodes, this was one of my favorites so far.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I used to read a lot too, and The Andromeda Strain was a book that I read. I liked the movie of it, and this episode was based on The Andromeda Strain. They make several references to it, and I love that.
I can absolutely see that. Yeah, and definitely good catch there. As soon as Jurassic Park came out, I think I started reading like everything Michael Crichton wrote there for a couple of years. And Andromeda Strain definitely sticks out as one of his best. And both of the movies, wasn't there 2 movies? Didn't they do a movie like in the 70s and then they did it back in the 90s too?
Yeah, they did. Yep.
Yeah, the 90s one definitely a little bit better.
Yeah, more updated.
As far as self-contained episodes go, it doesn't get much better than this, I don't think, so far. The visuals were definitely something that I really enjoyed off this episode, especially when they get to the point that they're trying to free Jack, and they try everything. They try to blast from the staff weapon, which they found out this thing's basically feeding off of energy. They tried cutting it with laser torches, shit like that, and then they realize, it's feeding like a fire. Maybe we need to suck off the oxygen, But they put in those UV lights, and as soon as they put those UV lights in, I was like, oh, this is it. Like this is really cool, like just from a visual standpoint, very, very cool episode.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't even question that they kept the lights off and the UV lights on the entire time because it was just so beautiful to watch.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Like if they would have turned the regular lights back on, I think I would have noticed it and I would have been disappointed. I'd been like, no. Like I understand there's no science backing here, but please don't. Let's just keep it going with that nice blue glow,
Yeah.
Plus Carter's got a little crush, or somebody's got a little crush on Carter.
Yeah. Do we ever see him again?
I don't think so.
That was an interesting little side note to this episode.
Yeah, I was like,
they introduce him, and he's like what, 10 years younger than her.
Yeah,
just awkward. I loved it. Every second of it.
I thought it was a really cool. I thought it was a really cool concept, but it's just a really weird spot to put that in.
I think they just needed to fill the episode because there was not a lot to this episode.
No, there really wasn't.
Did they ever get Jack a box to stand on? I don't know that they did.
I don't know if they did either, and that was requested fairly early.
Yeah, that was my first thought, and then 30 seconds later, Hammond asked for it, and then Jack just kind of hung there for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, just as a decoration, as almost like a fucking. It reminded me of like a Halloween decoration.
Yep.
Very just hanging there. But they finally find a way, or they finally decide to let the thing grow, because why not? Because apparently, that's how this thing is going to communicate. And they agree to send it off to this primordial world, and Jack is freed with no scarring whatsoever. Like, just came out of that one. He kind of pulled a Daniel there,
Yeah, no, he definitely did. And my question with this is, why, if they know the Stargate exists, why didn't the people just leave their planet when it went to hell? Why go through all of this?
Okay, so are we assuming, and you do bring up a good point here, something I didn't think about. Are we assuming then that this group of people, these aliens, were more superior than us, correct?
Yep.
Then you definitely bring us up a good point, because if they had a Stargate, you have to figure that they would have figured out how to dial out.
Basically have to. Yeah, there was a DHD, or we wouldn't be there.
Correct, but if they didn't have, so we got our star chart from Abydos, right? What if they just didn't have a charting for it? Like, they knew how it worked, but they just didn't know where to go.
Then just dial randomly. It's got to work sometime.
That's true.
I mean, the DHD updates, the reason we could only dial Abydos to start was because we didn't account for, drift and all that as time went on. They don't have to worry about that. They can just hit random symbols.
Until something happens.
Yeah, exactly. If you've got years to study it, why wouldn't you?
No, you raise a solid point, sir. Something I didn't think about during watching that. And that's why I like to have somebody else to talk to about these shows.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, I think we both agree. Pretty good little standalone episode.
Yep.
Wasn't a whole lot. And you're 100% right when you say there's not a whole lot to it. not a whole lot to talk about, but a really good episode nonetheless.
No, it's a simple premise, but it really it unpacks much like the orb itself, and sort of grows.
Yeah, yep, I agree, and definitely points for you for the Hellraiser comment. Fantastic reference there. So moving on to our third and final episode this evening, we had Families, which I fucking love this episode. But why don't you tell us about Families?
Yeah, I mean, it was another small episode. In this one, Teal'c's family gets in the way once again. We have to go and rescue them from themselves because Apophis has kidnapped Ryak and brainwashed him. Teal'c goes in, cuckolds his wife's new husband, and once again leaves her screwed by just leaving her alone.
Yes.
I mean, really, there's not much more to add to this episode from that. He's left her twice. He never calls. He never visits. I realize this was all a spur-of-the-moment thing, but he still has no plan for her, and yet expects her to wait for him.
Correct. Which I thought, was it Jack that kind of talked to him about that?
Yeah.
I thought that was explained very well to him, I guess. It was a neat little scene between Jack and Teal'c talking about that, but I kind of agree. I liked the episode. I did, only because we get more of Teal'c's family.
Yeah, Ryak is it's good to have a character like that, and I like Teal'c's wife. She did marry, what was his name, Frozen Yogurt?
Frotak.
Yeah, I think we should open a Stargate-themed frozen yogurt place, you and I. We will call it Frotak. I think we can make a killing.
Oh, we'd make a killing to a very small population.
But loyal population.
Loyal as they come. And really, any episode we get Braytak in, I'm a big fan of. I think I mentioned that a few episodes ago. I really like his character. I love the character of Braytak.
Takmate Braytak is one of he's right up there with Thor for me. He's one of my favorite characters. I'd watch anything he's in, and I get excited when I see that actor in anything and everything else.
Yep. No, I agree 100%, man. God, he's just so good. He really is. And the more I see of Apophis, the less threatening that son of a bitch becomes to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, we're chipping away at his power base. He's got nothing except for 6 Jaffa left, and we basically killed 6 Jaffa in this episode.
Yeah. No, he absolutely did. It's just, I don't know. And maybe you're right that it's just that, SG-1's been chipping away at it. But he just doesn't have the he doesn't have that sense of evil like he did at the start of the show. Yeah. But I think you're right. I think it is because SG-1 has shown him as fallible, and he's got to be getting close to the end of his rope in terms of people he has with him and places he can go, that type of thing.
He was big fish, big pond, and then we show up and suddenly, we're spearing all of his friends.
We're just fishing, that's all.
And we didn't even mean it. We were just using the right bait, it just happened to hook the right people.
Yeah, you're damn right, sir. You are damn right. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty good episode, all said and done. I mean, you hit everything that I wanted to talk about and kind of what the show was, or what that episode was about. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's a little interesting though. If you look at who writes certain episodes, you can see certain themes coming back in it. This one was written by Catherine Powers, who has written some of the really good episodes, like Thor's Hammer and Thor's Chariot, Emancipation and Enigma. But she's also written a bunch of the others where it's a little bit slower, more exploring feelings and how this makes you feel and how this would. I don't know, like a little bit slower. And this, I think, was a little bit slower episode.
I agree. I absolutely agree. It was more of a I don't want to say heartfelt episode, necessarily, but it definitely was a slower episode. I think you're right that the writers, whoever's writing that particular episode, and Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but you can definitely kind of see an overall arcing between certain writers and certain types of episodes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so. Anything you want to talk about just with those 3 episodes that kind of came to mind, or final word? Go ahead.
This was, and I think it was, I know it was this episode, Family, but I'm not sure where the other one was. There were 2 references in what we watched this week where Jack talks about electroshock therapy. And I think that he has suffered and been cured by electroshock therapy at some point in his past, because how else would he know to compare the Zat gun to electroshock therapy? We know he's been hit by the Zat. I think this is proof that he's been shocked in the head.
Okay. So one, it's a hell of a point you just brought up there. And there may be some truth to that. All right. 2, with our Twitter account at Chevron Podcast, I believe it was Atlantis TV that was retweeting, I think episode 9 had retweeted that they were watching it, and there was a gentleman that followed us that I'm now following. He runs his name is Mac Jackson. He runs a MacGyver podcast.
Really?
Yeah, and it's all about MacGyver and Richard Dean Anderson. And it's actually a pretty interesting podcast. I started listening to it, Wednesday or Thursday or so. I've gotten a few episodes in. And it's all about, as much as we love Stargate, it's his love for MacGyver. And he's got really good production, and it's a very fun podcast. Well, he's got the last podcast he put out, he was talking about how he's in the process of creating a radio drama that is a MacGyver, Jack O'Neill based radio drama, right? Where how he's kind of pictured this is that they coexist in the same universe, and apparently there's been like fan theories that like Jack O'Neill is basically MacGyver in hiding right now.
I buy it. You know what? This plays into what I do so much. I think that he is the same character.
Yeah. So what Mac Jackson's doing, and he's going to voice everything and write everything, and he's got people doing the music for him, is that he's taking the approach that I believe it was the Asgards that told Jack at one point, spoilers, because this does happen for our show, this happens later on in the season, but they tell Jack that you're only one of 2, right? So what Mr. Jackson's doing is saying, well, maybe that's because he's a twin and MacGyver is the other brother, right? So he's going to create this radio drama where the 2 of them meet and have these adventures. And I was like, oh my God, that may be the greatest fucking thing I've ever heard. I'm totally going to listen to this shit. Like,
that's amazing.
I'm hook, line, and sinker. I'm into something like that. So as soon as you said electric shock treatment, I don't know why that my mind just immediately wrapped over to that idea. And there's all these explanations, like, and it's really, I started looking into this, and the whole theory that MacGyver is Jack in hiding, and they're like, no, because why would he ever need Daniel, Teal'c, or Carter? Because if he's MacGyver, he doesn't need any of those fucking people,
Yep.
So I thought it was kind of a neat idea that he's got working, and I definitely look forward to listening to those, because that is fantastic stuff. So
that's amazing. Did you ever hear of the comic book that does the crossover between Star Wars and Indiana Jones?
I have not.
Yes, it was one of the what if type, didn't really happen, but a great story where the Millennium Falcon crash lands on Earth. Han Solo is killed in the crash, but Chewbacca becomes the Sasquatch. Indiana Jones goes looking for the Sasquatch, and 125 years have passed since the Millennium Falcon crashed, and he finds Chewbacca in the woods, and they've basically reunited, and they kind of gloss over the fact that they're the same person.
That's an amazing storyline. I'm gonna have to look for that, man.
Yeah, give it a read. It's pretty neat.
I love stuff like that. It's stuff that's so far out of canon that could never actually happen, but the what if scenarios. Like,
yeah,
it's beautiful.
No, that's why I love like fan fiction and all that. The latest, I think it's chapter 38 of the Fifth Race is up on fanfiction.net, which is continuing the story. Love that. I just I want more story. That's all I want out of life. I want more.
Yep, I do too, buddy. I do too. So, yeah. Going back to the podcast. Sorry, we kind of side noted there. Out of those 3 episodes, Thor's Chariot by far was the best episode out of those 3, man.
Hands down.
Just propelled the story so far, and it got me and clearly you so excited to see more of the Asgard.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Can't wait. So amazing, so interesting.
Yeah. So, really, really liked all 3 episodes, but that by far was it. So, next week, in episode 11, we are looking at Secrets, Bane, and then the Tok'ra, part 1 and part 2. Which, again, like I mentioned earlier, as soon as I saw Thor's Chariot, I got really pumped, and as soon as I saw Tok'ra, I got really, really excited. So, can't wait to get into that stuff. I did want to mention just a huge thank you for all the support thus far on the podcast. It's been incredible, the amount of downloads that we've gotten and just kind words that have come our way, either through Reddit or tweets or however, iTunes. So I really do appreciate it. I think we both do. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We appreciate you guys listening.
Yep. We have links to our Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube in the show notes and on ChevronLock.com. And rate us on iTunes and tell a friend.
Thank you so much. You guys have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.